Hello and welcome to Tangents, the only show on the internet that discusses the technology involving suntanning in men. Tangents.
Down there.
Wow, where's the 404, Jeff?
I made a mistake and I accidentally deleted the bank of sounds that I made for our show because I'm a dummy. It was an accident, it was a mistake, and it is where we are.
You had one job.
I know, and I failed at it miserably.
No, you have two jobs.
Congratulations.
For the last time.
I know. So it's here. It's right here. It's right here, ready to go. And it's.
Christoph, you're the closest to him. You have to drive out to his house and smack him.
Yeah, come on down.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we are discussing, of course, the benefits of tanning in men's lifestyle. And we are all well tanned, as you can see.
Yes, I'm so tan.
Yes, with me, of course, is my fellow tanning technologists as well as experts in the melanin field. Thus, Christoph from the sunny beaches of New York.
Yes, sunny like England.
Indeed. How are you?
I'm doing okay. You know, for centuries, man has dreamed of destroying the sun, and we're going to do the next best thing. We're going to block it out.
That's the spirit. This is the first time I think I've ever seen you wear a color.
Yes.
Fascinating.
You know, it's a color for spite.
That is a spitefully grungy shirt you've got on there.
Yeah. So I just wanted to have sleeves.
Lumberjacks.
Mm-hmm.
Sexy, though.
So I had a great weekend. I DJ'd Sunday in the Isle of Staten
Yes.
for a Halloween party. So that was a lot of fun. And I'm DJing next Friday at a cool party in Brooklyn called Summon.
Very nice. Excellent.
Yeah, so that's what's going on
You're
with me.
busy. And then, of course, you have your Spike Club show tomorrow.
I have a Spike Club tomorrow, and then in 2 weeks I'll be doing a convention that Leatherstrip is playing.
Which one is that?
The Unconvention in Morristown, New Jersey.
Beautiful Morristown, home of publishing giant Houghton Mifflin, isn't it not?
Ooh, fascinating.
Indeed.
How do you have this trivia at the knowledge, or just like at the ready? Did you just make it up, or is that real?
It's real. I just remember because, like, when I was in third grade, I had a social studies textbook, and they kept on talking about Morristown, New Jersey, and it was published by Houghton Mifflin. And I looked at in the copyright section, and Houghton Mifflin was located in Morristown, New Jersey. So,
Funny.
I don't know. I can't remember a person's phone number or what I had for lunch, but I can remember my third grade social studies book was published by Houghton Mifflin, and
yeah.
And that just triggered a memory of my third grade teacher telling us it was Houghton, not Houghton, and being very, very insistent on it throughout that school year.
No, my third grade school year sucked ass too. Well, next time we know what's wrong with us.
I think I went to third grade, but I couldn't be sure.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
That's just it. That's just the one thing.
It was.
Third grade is about when they started asking us to actually work.
Yeah, that's when school was no longer fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like, what? I don't get a star for this?
These numbers? What the hell does this number shit mean? It's percentages? Well, Christoph, I'm glad that you're on. And I'm glad that you're going to Morristown, New Jersey. I expect a full report from your antics. Jeff, how are you tonight? Jeff
good.
from the sunny beaches of Virginia.
The Virginian basement. Yeah, actually it was like 73 degrees here and sunny today. It was very weird.
Look at you.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I've started getting the trickle of gear in from my crazy Sweetwater trade, so I have this new microphone. Please enjoy my ASMR. I can do all kinds of that shenanigans.
It's definitely whisper soft.
Yeah, the thing that I both love and hate about an SM58, which is what I've used for streaming for a long time, is that it's so good at rejecting sound.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very good because I can have any manner of chaos going on around me, because this is just a house, of course, with children and cats and humans and things in it. And I can have any amount of chaos going on. And the SM58, like, until you get up and like French it, like does not care what's going on.
Right. Oh yeah.
Um,
That's why
it also does not sound like amazing.
No. It's an adequate microphone that rejects a lot of noise, and you can possibly like eat, digest, and shit out, and it would still function.
Yeah. So I got this, which is what is this thing?
I don't know.
It says it's an AKG C214. It's got a really catchy name.
Yeah, it flows off the tongue.
It's really good when your company name is just 3 random letters and then you slap some numbers and letters together to get a microphone. But it is a very nice microphone. And so I am pleased to have it here, and we'll see how I do with it.
Well, it sounds pretty good. I do hear some hissing. I will say that.
Yeah, I for sure don't have it set it up.
Yeah.
Right. I can
yeah.
fix that.
Yeah. I'm not judging much.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm being judged.
Okay. Good. Okay.
How about now? How's that?
It's still there.
Oh, good. That's good. I will maybe switch to the SM58.
No, I think it's fine. If you just go through it and just see how it goes. Just so you know, AKG stands for Akustisch und Kinograta Gastelstrafen MBH.
That's true. I read that.
That's yeah, it rolls right off.
Yeah,
the tongue
or
just as well as
Acoustic and
AKG,
Cinema
so.
Equipment LLC is what it. Yeah. My German is I've just ruined another language, and Actitect is like rolling his eyes like crazy.
It's good.
Yeah.
But I let's see what else is going on that's like exciting and positive as opposed to depressing and sad in the world. I ordered Synth History from Dan's Computer Magic, Dan CM, from her Synth History.
Oh.
And I got these in the mail today, and they're super nice. I was really sort of surprised. Like, they're kind of small, which is actually, they look very large on the internet, and I'm actually much happier with this size. But they're really nicely printed, really like high quality paper, good quality photography and everything in them. And I don't know if anybody here who's listening or participating has not ever stuff. It's really good. She does these really nice interviews with people, and so I'm not into all of them, but so like issue 1 had I'll name off a few that I was interested in, which was Boy Harsher, Dave Smith, Gary Newman, James Murphy, Lisa Belladonna, One O Tricks Point Never, Suzanne Ciani, and Vince Clarke. And then in issue 2, I mean, I had to get issue 2 because it's got Trent Reznor in it, but it's got Ryuichi Sakamoto, John Carpenter, Jean-Michel Jarre, Fatboy Slim. There's a bunch of folks in these things, A-Track, and they're these like really nice in-depth interviews. So I got these. That was exciting. They came in the mail. Didn't take too long, and I'm pumped to read them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was exciting.
They look like they're nice. They look like they're nice little books.
Yeah, they're really. I mean, I was kind of expecting something a little more zany. I mean, they're not like super cheap.
Yeah, they're like
So
$20 each American.
Yeah, I was hoping for something that wasn't super zany, but I was totally expecting it. And I was going to be fine with it. That's what I got. But they're nice. They're these like perfect bound things and nice quality paper and good photography. And
Yeah, they look
yeah,
great.
they're really nice. I'm into it.
I like that.
So, there
I'm
you go.
ordering them right now, actually.
You should do it.
Done.
That's it.
Well, awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're getting some stuff in and you're enjoying some reading and all your spare free time that you have.
Yeah, I just got to learn to read and then I'll be golden.
Do you really, though?
There's not that
There's
many
pictures.
It's a lot of
Okay.
words. Not many. It's mostly
Oh,
words.
okay. Yeah, I guess you should probably learn to read a little bit. Well, good. I'm glad that you're learning to read, finally.
Yeah, about time.
And speaking of literate people, all the way from the beautiful sunny shores of Chicagoland, Tony, a.k.a. Noise Theorem. How are you this evening? Good.
I am fine.
What's new in your world?
I am very fine. Not a whole heck of a lot. I'm kind of decided to give up on the DAWless route that I was kind of going down with these different little setups, and just give up and start loving DAWs, because anything else is kind of stupid. I kind of realized, you know, unless you have a really good reason, like you're blind and you need to touch things, DAWless works for like a little inspiration, but you're not going to actually finish anything there. So I know I just pissed off a lot of people saying that.
That's okay. We're supposed to be pissing people off. They'll probably complain about us later. So you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you recently started using a different DAW than you usually do.
Well, it's actually been kind of a thing. I'd been using Ableton for a long time, but I never really chose Ableton. It was because I used to use Sonar. And then at one point, you know, Gibson decided to screw them like they do everything else. And that's when I switched to Ableton, because at that point in time, everyone was switching to Ableton, so why shouldn't I? And I've just kind of realized that as that product has evolved, it kind of encourages a lot of laziness, because it's very easy to do things very quickly. And you can't really, you know, so I used it, I finished things with it, but I never really liked it. I decided to give Bitwig a try. Of course, I'm giving Bitwig a try just when they're ticking off everyone in their,
right,
in their fan base or in user base. And then I liked it. It was okay, but it seems like they have a long way to go. There's basic stuff that should work that just doesn't. Like a 4 on the floor transient detection on a 4 on the floor kick drum doesn't work. That's kind of a big deal, you know, especially with a product that's supposed to be for like dance music stuff. So then after that, I kind of decided, well, since I have PreSonus equipment, I decided to try Studio One, because I had a license for it anyway from that. I'm getting along with it. I like it. It's linear. It's not trying to force me into a pattern-based workflow, which I like, and I'm trying to get away from pattern-based, just, you know, everything being so pattern and clip-based. I prefer to work with long linear tracks that are a little more dynamic.
Excellent.
And I like it so far.
Yeah, I've been a Studio One user now for a couple of years, and I've really like working in that environment. I like the fact that it just gets the fuck out of my way so I can work on things, and it's not like, you know, so full of like esoteric bells and whistles that it just drives you fucking insane instead of actually letting you get shit done. So.
I don't need the bundled sampler or bundled drum machine plugin.
Right.
Don't have to be that great, because there are other plugins that are just way better than anything you're going to bundle with it. Whereas it seems like with like Studio One and really with Live, they want to try to keep you into their thing only. So they end up fixing all of this stuff and working on all these bells and whistles when there's stuff at the core that just bugs the crap out of me.
Yeah, it also integrates quite well when you move into like if you're doing mastering and stuff like that. I kind of like how it will automatically, you know, like generate the files you need to do mastering. If you go back and you hear something that you want to fix in a mix, it will automatically update those master files for you as well when it's done. I think that's kind of a pretty handy little trick. I don't do much mastering on my own, but I still like to lay out my albums and stuff like that in that view and see how it all works. So yeah, I
haven't gotten that.
Yeah, it's a fun.
Make sure you're saving redundant copies if you're using the mastering suite in Studio One. I've had a lot of bugs with it. I have Studio One 5, and I like it for mixing. It's definitely my favorite one for audio mixing, and it's buggy as shit in that view. Though I will say, like, it has eaten more files than I have ever had any DAW ever eat.
Really, I've not had any issues at all.
It's only in the mastering view.
Yeah.
It loses the association between the mastering files. So maybe it's my computer. I don't know. Like I'm not mad about it, because like it ate it like twice. I'm like, I'm gonna save doubles. I don't know. So then I make sure that I, like, if I save something, I just make sure I go hit my time machine back up to just make sure it's printing a copy right after I save something. And if I lose it, I can go grab it again. But that's the only complaint that I've had with Studio One, really, is that. And then it opens that stupid window on the right-hand side, the panel on the right, when you open it up the first time, and it's every time, what's the panel? You know the one I'm talking about because it opens it up for you too, and you close it every time as well.
Oh, when you're creating a new project, or just like the little?
Yeah, when you open a new project and it opens that panel on the right, and you can't make it not open that panel on the right every time you open it. Drives me nuts.
Oh, just like the instruments panel and stuff like that?
I don't want that to open up. All I want is a blank sheet of paper, and every time I have to go close it. I want it to open up the mixer view and the timeline view, and not that.
Which is weird because you
right.
like. I know that like the version 6, you have a lot more template control.
They're not getting my money for it.
Get a super wide monitor and just hang a strip of cloth where that window usually comes up, and then you'll
just like get.
I can't. I have a Mac. I don't have a.
Make a teeny tiny little vertical blind and just.
Yeah, perfect.
You know, when time comes. That's the secret, really. Well, welcome to the Studio One fold. Jeff uses it, as he mentioned. Justin uses it. I use it. So now you're in for it.
Yeah. Don't count me in yet. I'll probably be on Renoise next week or some.
Oh, Renoise is very good. Renoise does some things like really well. The effects in Renoise are like top notch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to use it to just kind of generate little bits of things that I'll then pull into something else. But I haven't maintained my license on it, so I'm probably several versions behind at this point.
Yeah, I just bounce around between Reason and Studio One anymore.
Yeah, I started out on an Amiga back in the 90s. So going back to trackers, it just feels like it's wonderful, but also it's like, why the hell am I doing this myself?
I don't need to do it again. Well,
like going back
or taking like an old guitar pedal and turning it into a soft synth.
What kind of a Moger Foger would do that?
Exactly. And now the news. Moog Music, our good friends at Moog Music. And I say that because they give us things. No, they don't. No one gives us anything except shit. Have recently released the Moger Fogers as plugins. The Moger Fogers are, some people call them modern classic effects pedals, also kind of synthesizers in a weird little way as well. I've seen them used for all kinds of crazy stuff like that. And now they have taken those devices and turned them into virtual instruments. Hooray! So you get the low pass filter, the ring modulator, the stage phaser, the analog delay, the MRF, which is just a resonant filter box with a pattern generator, frequency box, and cluster flux, which is my favorite name for something. That's just like a coarse flanging vibrato flexible processor, as they call it. So all that comes into your environment. And what's the going price on this thing?
Like $150.
Okay, $150 for all of those. They sound okay, I guess. I don't know. I have a tough time with I the Moger Fogers were fun to play with. I've had a chance to sit down and play with functioning ones on like Tony, and they were hella fun to play with and stuff like that. But I just don't feel like pedals as plugins are really that much fun, and there's so much out there in plugin land that does this stuff, if not more.
Yeah. I have the problem with things like this, especially with taking, anytime you're taking hardware and turning it into software. I mean, with some things, it can kind of make sense, but you're basically limiting what the software can do because you're going for that, and you're the skeuomorphic GUI where it looks like the hardware, and you can't have abilities beyond what the hardware could do. It just ends up being limiting and kind of silly. With a pedal particularly, I mean, imagine if, like all those Boss pedals that have 3 parameters on them. It's like, let's create a bunch of plugins that have 3 parameters. They might be nice and easy to use, but you're going to have lots of plugins that you're going to be able to dial in better. So they become, unless they're really cheap, and $150 it's not bad, but it's not, it's not, just
Mm-hmm.
impulse buy it. I think so. I'm not paying $150 still
Right.
because the Moog name
Not
is
worth
on
it.
it.
Yeah, I'll make an exception to the pedal virtualization. If Boss put out the PS2, the delay pitch shifter pedal as a plugin, even if it only had 3 knobs, I would buy it if it was accurate because I loved the sound of it. And I know the chip part's digital, but I have to wonder if the filtering is
Mhm.
analog, and that would make it difficult. But I don't know. But it had a great sound, and I would totally pay $150 for that plugin. And I don't have any good pitch shifting plugins that have that kind of the way that it pitch shifted. Like it had a specific kind of sound that's lost in later Boss pitch shifters. So yeah,
And that brings up another point: is how accurate are these things to the to the original Moogafogers?
and I have doubts.
Yeah, this Starsky car video did not make them sound. I mean, he didn't do all of them.
Mm-hmm.
He only did, it was at one, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like it's like not the
Yeah.
same thing, I guess. It doesn't sound like the same thing.
It's software coming from a company that's really known for
Mm-hmm.
their vintage hardware. It seems odd that they would think that they could leverage their way into that based on the Animoog and those other. I mean, their plug-in, their iPad apps are cool and they're fun, and they're interesting, but I don't know, recreating their old hardware as software just doesn't seem like a recipe
Well,
for
and
anything
I think that
innovative.
you make a good point there. Is like you look at something like the Animoog, it has a interface that lends itself well to the user experience of of the iPad, or with like the multi-touch and everything like that, as well as like the different ways to input notes into it. These things don't really have that. Like it's just like literally, it's just like we made a replica, a skeuomorphic replica of a pedal with the little stompy buttons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just
I expect this.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I expect this from Arturia, but
Yeah.
Moog should do something
I
else.
imagine here it's the elephant in the room is probably supply chain
Yeah.
shortages, and they just need to keep putting stuff out while they can't get parts.
Yeah.
So good luck to Moog. I hope they can stay
Yeah.
afloat.
I think that actually might be why Strymon is making software versions that are plug-in.
Yeah, it could well be.
They always said they wouldn't do that, and now here they are with one of their biggest pedals available as a plug-in, and they're charging way too much for that too. But
Yeah.
maybe that's something else.
That being
I have
said,
to wonder how it compares
yeah, I haven't.
because it's a beefy pedal, and I'm wondering if there's a lot of electronics in it that make its magic. So that could be difficult for a single CPU to emulate.
It's getting pretty long in the tooth too, which is another reason that they might have considered doing it. This is software.
Yeah, I could see that.
Just
Well,
like
it might be getting long in the tooth, but the prices aren't dropping. But it could be that they're also just expensive to manufacture.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I don't think there's that many of them sold. I don't think Strymon's like that big of a company.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they sell pretty well. I mean, every single, I think most 99% of the ambient musicians I've seen out there have a Big Sky sitting in their stuff.
It's like 200
Yeah.
people, Andrew.
Yeah, well, still that's 200 units. I mean, that's
Or units
yeah.
that I've
I mean,
sold.
as I say, that's more than, let's say, a Commodore Dorian. And how many of Commodore Dorians have sold?
I mean, that is for sure true.
Yeah. So, and that brings us to, of course, the Commodore Dorian, which is a amazing accordion built out of a Commodore 64. There are 2 Commodore 64s.
I think it was oh my God, what's I just like have had a total brain blanking. The author who wrote Tom Sawyer.
Mark Twain.
Mark Twain. I think this is a Mark Twain quote.
Samuel Clemens.
Do you know what the definition of a gentleman is? A man who can play the accordion but doesn't.
True. So yeah, this thing is some guy's little wet dream project. And it's amazing. It's this insane rhythm box and full accordion built out of a Commodore 64. It's really kind of weird how he did this whole thing.
I mean, yeah, it's really weird how he did this whole thing. It is really weird how he decided to do that. I really do have questions about why somebody was like, you know, the best way to play a Commodore 64 would be as an accordion. That's what we need. It's just.
I mean, we all got pretty bored during the pandemic, but I mean, this is next level. This is who hurt you.
Yeah, this is a warning
next
flag.
level.
Yeah, this is like the bellows are made out of floppy disks. Like old 5 1/4 floppy disks, and it is very much like. So he made other instruments as well because he made the 64 gun as well.
It's reminiscent of Apollo.
That sounds like almost perverse.
It's like, all right, you have these things, make something out of it. Go.
What's that line from?
So he proved to himself that he could, but he never addressed whether he should.
That's exactly what I was saying. That line from Jurassic Park, where Ian Malcolm was like, "Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether they could do it that they never stopped to think about whether they should."
Yes. Wombre is like, "What are you talking about? We are talking about the Commodorian. Boy, I can't even say it."
Hold on, Wombre. Here comes a fresh.
Yeah, we'll give you another link there, just in case you weren't watching it. There you go. So we're talking about the 8-bit accordion, made out of Commodore 64's floppy disks and gaffer's tape, and loneliness, I think.
Well, that and probably an absolute.
I don't know.
For his neighbors.
I think this thing is probably.
He lives with.
I think this is probably a sex magnet.
Well, I've tried everything to get it divorced. Maybe this will work.
Yeah.
And you've got to be absolutely positively sure that there is no chance of attracting a mate.
And he's got a little monkey in a suit to collect tips, and the monkey immediately attacks him with it.
Starts beating him with a little cup.
Yeah.
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 It's you know, you could sample it on your Akai Force. He's put out some stuff.
Yeah, you could. You could actually take that and you can put that onto your Akai Force after you update the firmware to 3.2. If you're an Akai Force user, this is your chance, finally.
It's a time
to get this whole motherfucker up and running to 3.2. I still, I've looked at the Akai Force a couple of times, and I still have no idea what it's for. Is it? It's not an MPC.
I had one, and I think someone at Akai got really high, was a fan of the platypus, and thought, let's make a push controller with an MPC. But let's not think it through at all. Let's just do it.
The important thing is
because the software,
it's got blinky lights. The kids love the blinky lights.
Oh yeah.
Let's give them the blinky lights to sell these units. Brilliant.
I'll say the grid controller.
Mm-hmm.
The grid controller was great. Playing it on that was great. But the physical design of it was terrible because it was so deep that you end up having to bend over the thing so far to look at the screen.
Mm-hmm.
You end up with neck pain, or you have to put it up on some kind of stand or something, and it's just so huge it doesn't fit anywhere. that's actually one of the primary reasons I got rid of it, because it just didn't fit anywhere. And I have an MPC, and you can plug a grid controller into that via USB. So what do I need this thing for? And it doesn't do basic things that you would expect it to do. Like, there's no way to change tempo. Yes. I mean, you can change the tempo, you can set the master tempo, but you can't like have tempos at different scenes. So think about trying to do a live set on there, but you can only have one tempo. The only way to change the tempo is to manually stop it, go change it, and then come back. So it's not really good for live use, but it's lacking a lot of things for proper studio use. I really think it's like, good idea. They didn't think it through at all.
Did you have it before or after the big firmware update? I want to think it was like 2.0.
I had it until like a couple weeks ago. Actually, I sold it maybe a month ago. So I had it. I had the disk streaming, which worked very well. And unlike a lot of users, most of the users that complain about problems with their Force and MPC, it's because they're storing things to the internal hard drive, the system drive, and you're not supposed to do that. But for some reason, Akai did not harden the Linux kernel in any ways or put anything in there so you couldn't write to it, which would be the obvious thing. But so people save things to the internal drive, it runs out of space, and then all sorts of goofy things happen, starts crashing. Same with the One, same with the MPC. I've never had any of the problems that are common in the forums. I will actually say they were much more reliable devices if they actually cared for them properly. And I know that'll tick off a lot of people too, but who have them. But yeah, the Force was just, it was a device looking for a problem. It wasn't, I don't know.
They were,
but I sold it for almost what I paid for it, so I don't feel too bad. I got it on a deal.
The Akai, I can't remember what the thing was. It like they were making something. Was it called a Fire or something that was an Ableton?
The Fire for Fruity Loop. The Fire was for
okay.
FL
So
Studio.
they were making something that was like that for Ableton, and they were the official controller of it. And then Push came in, and
they designed.
I heard about this. I mean, I don't know whether this is like conjecture or accurate or whatever. So like file under urban legend, I guess. But the story that I've heard is that essentially that the hardware was cooked for the next Ableton controller, and for whatever reason the contract was not renewed, and so they took that hardware and they updated it with some additional hardware to computerize it and make it into the thing that it is.
There's a little of that's true. I know a guy that was until before the pandemic. In the pandemic, Akai laid a bunch of people off, and including the guy I knew. But they had the APC 40, and they were working on a follow-up to that was going to be more compatible with Ableton projects and such like that. And then Ableton decided to create the Push 2 on their own. The original Push controller was designed in cooperation with Akai, but then that didn't survive. That partnership didn't survive. So then they kind of got the idea, hey, we have the MPC software, maybe we can shoehorn that on here. And so that's literally what it was. I mean, if you had an MPC, all of the screens are the same, except for some things.
It's got the linear view though, too, right? On the Force.
That's something new. That's something new that just came out for it, that arranger view, which is, to me, I don't know what the big deal was about having an arranger view on a little display like that. You know, it's not like you can see that much time on on a full size monitor where an arrangement view is valuable. I don't know. I found it kind of ridiculously useless, but hey, that's what the users were asking for, so they slapped it together. But you still don't get the tempo changes or a set list function, because to load up a set, to load up another set, you had to go through the file system to find your file. There was no way to queue up 3 or 4 different tracks in the set list. They just released that with the 3. Whatever operating system that just came out, 3.2.
Yeah, so it looks like they're trying to bring this more up into line with a more up-to-date MPC OSs, because a lot of the features that are in here
Yeah.
are pretty much exactly the same as what's in the newer MPC OS firmware. Things like the ability to do like the new plugins that they have, and the things like the ratcheting, and the updates to the sequencer and all that stuff as well. Ableton Link support.
I don't know why that took them so long to implement. That seems like they should have had that. It's supposed to work with Ableton, and it doesn't have that in the first version of the. And the MPC has had it for a long time, so it's just lots of little things like that. It's like the MPC is the redheaded stepchild of Akai's product. They don't. I don't think they know what to do with it right now.
The MPC or the
They keep
or the Force, yeah.
The Force. The MPC they just came out with that keyboard version, which I think is an interesting development for them. But they're going to have to refresh that hardware in general soon, because they got to be running out of those processors sooner or later.
They could add some MPE controller to it, maybe like a hexagonal one.
Maybe.
So there's an idea.
Maybe.
Hex pads.
Boom. That was
Head
smooth.
exploded.
Yeah. So this is now we have moved on to the Exquis. Another name that just rolls off the tongue like a brick through your butthole.
It's like that line from Bob Dylan's from the Leopard Skin Pillbox, had it balances on your head just like a mattress balances on a bottle of
yeah,
wine.
exactly.
It's very good.
And the Exquis. Oh God.
Exquis.
Xkey?
I don't-
Is Xkey maybe? Because I'm looking at like Equus, like the play with the guy who like poked the eyes out of horses. The Xkey. I don't know.
The name was a mistake. The device may
The
be great.
device
but the name
looks
is
really cool.
It's a decision.
The naming process sucks, and that's kind of a thing, I think. So this is a Kickstarter project, and it did get kickstarted, fully fundable, all that stuff. Let me see, where are we at here? The Kickstarter page.
132K of
Yeah.
60.
Okay. So it's gotten over. To stop giving them money, they're fine now.
Yeah.
How do you
Somebody's not in the
I
chat.
know, right?
The
You have one job, Tony.
the reliance on an app, I don't like,
Yes.
and the USB, I don't like.
I don't mind the USB. I have the Atom SQ and the Atom controllers, and I also have a thing you have as well called a ChordBot, and those are all USB power devices.
Yeah,
and
but the ChordBot does it's USB powered, but it has MIDI in and out.
yeah, but you don't need it. You can use USB for that as well.
Gross. That's what cavemen do.
Yeah, well, I'm Captain Caveman. So this I don't like the idea that you have to use an app to use this thing, because that's just like it kind of like removes a lot of the functionality of everything, really. But I do like the size of this, and I do like the layout of it. I've never worked with the hexagram key things before, only in Dungeons and Dragons games. So
This is future landfill material, and I will tell you why. Because if it's dependent on an app, at some point, this little Kickstarter, they're going to run out of money to develop it, and then Apple's going to upgrade iOS, and as soon as Apple upgrades iOS, it breaks it.
Yep. And unless they open source the
It's,
firmware,
it's something that you're going to find. Yeah, it's something you're going to find in a drawer in 17 years and be like, huh, I remember this thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
I
good point.
I'll have a
That's what's
stack
gonna-
of dead audio interfaces just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, welcome to my basement. Just throw it on the pile.
yeah, stuff like that
is
does
really
not.
expensive.
Stuff like this does not do it for me for that very reason. And where that's
Yeah.
exactly what was on my mind with it is that like if it's dependent upon an app to be functional, then it's only
Yeah.
good as long as the app is maintained, because there are so many standards of like you're beholden to the standards of the marketplace,
Right.
where your app is hosted. You're not just beholden to the standards of like modern taste or whatever. And so anything that's like that is straight up rented. You do not own this thing. You have rented it from Apple. And that sucks.
Yeah, and it's and I'm in the process of trying to. I like old samplers, and I'm trying to get an old Akai Z4 working again, and I need to update the operating system. And this is why class compliant drivers are a beautiful thing. If it requires an app, the requiring an app is like the modern equivalent of non-class compliant drivers. It puts a freshness date on it immediately. As soon as the company or the group of people change direction. It's
And the other thing is that they're planning on this app is going to be compatible across the board with like Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, Linux, Raspberry Pi. That's a fairly expensive and ambitious amount of technology to be supporting now and in the future. You're not always going to be
give it class compliant drivers.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Put it in a browser.
And walk
That's
away
the
and
only
have
way
fun.
of doing that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I don't quite understand why there's a need for an app for this thing unless it's just because they want to keep it small. But even still, I mean, they program for Raspberry Pi in the motherfucker. Just put the Raspberry Pi in there and just let it do its thing. I think
they're busy thinking about if they could do a thing, not if they should do a thing.
Yeah.
Again.
But
or they've got some sort of framework that they're using that makes like rapid app development really easy, and it's like one of those like no code solution sort of a things.
Yeah, the problem with those
low
the
code.
big problem with those is that they tend to just be garbage apps.
Yeah,
you can make it work, but you're gonna be limited in what you can do because this is something we fight about at work all the time. So
yeah, so I mean I think that, and I don't see why they don't just make these bloody things just compliant.
It's cute.
It looks like it would feel good
because it's got that mushy.
It looks very squishable.
Yeah. But like you got like I'm looking at the Lumatone. That's another one of these isomorphic keyboard kind of things. That are really pretty, but they're also $4,000 for a controller.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I was looking that up.
I remember when I first started getting spam from them, it was like, here it is. Oh, I'm like, oh, this is really cool.
It's not that cool.
It's not that cool.
It's also gigantic.
Yeah, it's fucking huge.
I couldn't remember how much
and
it was.
Thick.
I went to look it up.
It's like a Commodore 64 accordion thick.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah. Yeah, and like
it is also like very well made. I believe.
Yeah, I think you could probably like throw it across. You could probably beat a person with it, or at least throw it across the room.
How many hit points of damage?
Probably like
all of them.
like 2d6.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's like roughly the size of an OG ARP 2600 and maybe a little less thick.
Yeah.
It's like it's really big, and it's like one of those like milled aluminum case things.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. I think but yeah, there's no real reason why they can't make it class compliant. I I have a Linstrument, and that's like a full MPE controller and all this bullshit, and it's like it's just a class compliant device. You don't have to worry about like need special drivers for anything like that. So I don't know. It's disappointing. So disappointing.
Maybe it's less disappointing than Akai's new synth.
But maybe, only maybe. So yes, back to our Akai news. They have introduced a Mini Moog inspired synth and what's called a flavor effect plugin for the MPC and the Force. The Flavor Pro is basically, it's just a sample processing kind of thing to make your samples sound vintage.
Flavor.
So yeah, it just it adds like distortion effects on it and stuff like that. Cool. All right.
Get your distortion there instead of from Isotope.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're running this thing, if you're doing your DAWless, beat making and stuff like that. Now, there's already a flavor mode in the Akai software that does some of this stuff, and it does it okay.
I took it for a demo on my MPC, and it's like I said, it's okay, but it's like it's for people that aren't creative enough to realize that if you put 4 plugins in a chain that currently exists, you can do everything this plugin can do. Now instead, you just put the one plugin there, and now you have to have them in that order and all the other things that come along with that. It's okay, but it's not really adding anything that the device couldn't do.
Yeah, and it's it's on special right now for $70. It's normally $100. Yeah, I think the only thing that it will do is, like you said, it does open up those other 3 spots on there for your other plugins, so you can put like 3 reverbs on it and crash your Akai. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is an MPC. You can always resample
exactly
what you're doing through the effects. I mean, that prints them, but that's part of the MPC workflow. That's what you do. It's just how it works. I don't know how I work.
Absolutely. And the other thing they came out with was a emulation of the Model D, the Moog Model D, called the Mini D. I love when they say analog reborn. This is a digital synth.
I like it that they're advertising their little D.
Yep.
Their Mini D.
Yeah.
To be quite
so
pretty.
This is the Akai plugin. That's again $99 right now. It's going on special for $79. And their Mini D is got a 4-voice polysynth in it. 400 presets. Ooh, 2 filters included, ladder and modern. All that kind of bullshit. So I like the synth plugins that come with the MPCs are fine. They're not amazing. They're not great. They're fine. They're adequate. These value added ones are clunkers. Does that make sense? Like, they might sound decent and everything like that, but if you're gonna play this thing live, you better have like a good speech ready in between songs while this thing loads those fucking plugins.
That's with the particularly the sample based ones, the stage pianos. Those I tried the demos of them. I had no interest in what they actually do, but they do. They take forever to actually load the presets in. The lower resource ones, Fabric, and the FM one. Fabric is pretty good. It's pretty interesting. It actually lets you do some sound design things you couldn't do on the MPC before. And the FM one is totally worth it, I will say. Because that one's there's no big sample library or anything to load. The patches load pretty much instantly. And it's really a good. I mean, it's only 4 operators, but it's really well designed. It's like it's got this huge modulation matrix on it, and the filters are really, really good. It's actually, I'm like, I don't know, because I'm sure Akai didn't actually build this stuff. This was stuff they put out to a subcontractor, and that subcontractor earned their money. I don't think the other ones did very much, but I think this points to that at some point Akai is going to release new hardware that has much more RAM that can load these plugins much more quickly. Because right now they're too slow for live. They're way too slow for
That's
for
part
live
of the vintage
loading.
experience of the MPC. It just takes like 20 minutes to learn a song. It's like the MPC 60.
Well, from floppy disk, yeah. The my MPC with the SD and with an SD installed will load. It has 2 gig of RAM, but that's kind of a lie because the operating system ends up using quite a lot of that. So you actually only have about 600 to 1 gigabyte of RAM
on the
with.
MPC.
And if you actually load a project on the live, the X and the One, because they have all the keyboard version has 4 gig of RAM. They expanded it, so that one will have more space in it. But these plugins, and that's why these plugins were designed for that. And on that, they load more quickly because it's got more RAM space. But on the smaller ones, it's nice. It's nice because if I want to go somewhere, I can just throw that under my arm and go. I've got everything. I can don't even need headphones because I can use the speaker they put into it. Which is the speaker's not horrible, surprisingly. It's like about what a really good Bluetooth.
That's what I hear.
Sounds like. So I mean, it's okay, but you can just take the MPC with some headphones,
or you can just
and you can do
take
a lot
with you onto the Metro and just and annoy everyone around you with it.
Yeah.
With the cool.
Yeah. With the Moog plugin, and I'll shut up about the MPC in a little while, but this is my baby. The Moog plugin doesn't sound bad. I just don't see the point of it when it already comes with an ARP Odyssey plugin, which was already kind of a clone of the Moog with a slightly different filter. And the difference between the modern and classic, the classic filter on the new Moog Model D or the Mini D, it has more of the crackling and distortion and just kind of falling apart that with the high resonance that you get on a real Moog. The modern one, it's like, let's take a Moog and cut all of its balls off and make it sound like a nice, clean synthesizer. Boring. That's what it does.
All right. Well, the thing I'd be interested for that filter is, for me, the downside of the Moog filter is when you put up the resonance that it kills your fundamental frequency.
Right.
So a modern filter may not be doing that. So that would be one reason to put in a second filter.
One,
for beefy purposes.
Yeah,
but if they fail to do that, it's pointless.
And the way I kind of counter that is if you're emulating a Moog, you have to emulate it, warts and all, or you're not really making an emulation.
They're making something. It's like, hey, let's make the Moog and add some other. You can add new features to the Mini.
Yeah, it's polyphonic. It's
it's just like it's. You could always just pretend that you're routing out. You're taking your Mini Moog output, and now you're using a separate voltage controlled filter.
Yeah.
Or you put your Moog into a modular setup. Kind of like the You Hate Diva. But the ARP Odyssey, it's 2 oscillators, right? So that's the reason to put out the Mini Moog, so you can get that third oscillator.
There you go.
But still, if you're just trying to get a 2 oscillator sound, I see your point about it being redundant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's.
But
they all sound a lot alike. They sound a lot like the tube synth. So it sounds like it feels like they're recycling a lot of their code between these plugins and putting a new code of paint on them.
So I've got the Behringer Model D, and I've never appreciated having a third oscillator as much as I do with the with my Model D. So I could see why you would add that in.
Makes sense. So those are now out there for your consumptive desires at $99 a pop. Currently on sale for $69 a pop for those. Looks like their other plugins are going for $99 right now. They're usually $150, so got that going for them.
They mispriced them. They're going to be putting them on sale. I'm not like going to jump in and buy any of them until they blow them out when they realize this was a mistake. I figure about a middle of next year.
Yeah, they're
they'll all
really
be
expensive
$30.
right now. I mean, I get it. They got to pay their developers,
Yeah.
but still, it's really expensive for what those instruments are. Especially like if their primary competition at this point is, DAWs, then this is really expensive for what those things do. All right. Speaking of people taking dumps, iZotope is getting rid of 3 of their plugins as of now. They're done. They're not going to support them anymore. You won't be able to get them anymore. All that stuff. And those 3 plugins are Iris 2, Break Tweaker, and Trash 2. I've never.
Does anybody here use Trash?
What's that?
Does anybody here use Trash?
I have not used Trash myself.
Because I've read great things about
Yes.
it for years, but I've never used it.
I
And
have it.
maybe that was the same for too many people, and that's why it's discontinued.
I have it, and I've used it, and I've used it a lot. And here's the thing that I will say about Trash, is that it is not adequately easy to use, and it is really easy to get very bad results out of it. It is also very possible for it to be some of the very best distortion that you will ever use. But it reminds me, I don't know, like the best the best analog I can offer for it is that it's kind of like an FM synth. Like the sweet spots are narrow, they're great. Like when you find one, it is absolutely top notch. But then you have to wade through fields of shit to get to the next one, and it's like there's so many models for what the distortion is based on, and then lots of settings, and then some of the presets in it. Like I don't know, it falls victim to the thing that a lot of iZotope stuff does, where it's got like 700 gajillion presets. And they're not particularly descriptively named. They're like emotively named. Yeah, so I see why they're discontinuing. Like, it's very good, and it's also like very not good when it isn't good.
Yeah, I have Iris 2, and I've used it a little bit. It at the time it was kind of pretty amazing, but I think that a lot of the granular sample synthesizers and stuff like that have come out since then have kind of done it better than what Iris 2 does. And in a much more easy to understand interface than what Iris 2 was doing. I'm not familiar with Break Tweaker at all.
I tried Break Tweaker, and I thought it was not good.
I think a lot of these plugins are being killed because companies, they have these old plugins that don't sell very well anymore, and they have to think about the work it will be to make it work with the new M1 processor. They've got that technical debt, that code debt, and they, especially with this being under NI's Native Instruments banner, where they're not doing so well anyway, they've got investors telling them, you got to cut something. You're going to have to cut some of this stuff. And they're going to have to be a little ruthless about it because they want to obviously be able to update the properties that do sell well. And some people's precious is going to die. It's just going to be the way it is. Welcome to life in the 21st century.
And, the NI
Absinthe.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was just
the first of many. And like how much of this stuff is actually going to start overlapping with already available software from those other companies that fall under the same company that owns NI and all those guys. And so I think they're going to start consolidating and removing product and stuff like that as far as that's concerned. And just like what sells, what doesn't sell, how much of a pain in the ass is it going to be to update it to modern operating systems and newer computers and stuff like that? How transportable is that code? Welcome to the future.
Yep. And they have all this stuff like makes you sign up for 8 bajillion layers of telemetry in it as well. So like they know what people are using. And if people were using the shit out of this thing, there's no way that they'd be discontinuing it. Like that's not in any way smart. And because it's all software, that they know what people So I just take it to mean that there's not a huge amount of demand out there for what's going on, and like that's okay. I don't know. Sometimes things go.
It happens.
Break Trigger was not very good.
No.
But Isotope, I don't know. I've been a long time Isotope user, and I thought, I don't know, like I've got the last I've bought Isotope Advanced for, I don't know, many iterations. I've been buying Isotope Advanced at this point. And the last version of Isotope Advanced was the one that made me go and buy the full FabFilter set.
Oh, okay.
It's not very good.
Yeah.
Like Ozone and Neutron have really like lost steam, I think, and they're so CPU hungry.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
I can't run a single. So I'm like, my computer is not like, it's not new, but it's also like, it's not a bad computer either. It's a 4.4 gigahertz Core i7 with 32 gigs of RAM. Like it's not new,
right?
But also it's not like a junker at all either. And they have an analog tape saturation plugin in I can't remember if I think it's in Isotope. I literally cannot run a single instance of it.
Wow.
It will not, like, it chews up even at like 48 kilohertz, like 4824. I can't run it with no other plugins running in real time. That's honestly ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like it's
just bad. Like there's no excuse for you not to be able to do it like a tape saturation emulation on one stereo track. And that's like, if I put it as the only thing running on one stereo track, literally it cannot play on my computer. So
well, we'll see what the future of Isotope looks like.
You'll need with Watson.
You'll need the HAL 9000 on its way out to Jupiter. We'll be able to play this fucking plugin now.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Andrew.
All right. So there's that. Isotope is beating those dead horses for us. Next piece of news, there is a nonprofit organization called AfroRack that is making modular synthesis accessible to underprivileged kids. So your kids will become modular synthesizer users.
AfroRack does cool stuff.
Yes, they do. So they're a nonprofit organization. People can donate to them. They're full, like, I think they're like a 501c organization, and which means that they are tax deductible and all that other stuff. They do some really cool work as far as like getting things like, teaching kids about modular synthesizers and synthesizers in general. Especially like folks that are underprivileged about how this stuff works and what it does and everything like that.
Yep. I think this is super interesting stuff because there's, well, I don't know, probably all of us had this experience to some degree because it's I think it's probably more pronounced in a lot of underprivileged, especially like urban communities. But the way that music is taught, especially to children in schools, is all like this very like old dead white dude stuff from Western Europe. And you're learning about what Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was hammering out on the piano 325 years ago, and you're like, this does not feel like it connects to me. And your teachers are going like, yeah, but this is important. You're like, I don't know that it does. I just want to like rock out to Metallica. This was the experience that I had. Like, and I remember going to I took piano lessons, I took flute lessons, I took all these lessons on these instruments, and I was like being taught this music that just, it could not have felt more alien. And I was taking these things and I hated it. Like I actually like actively disliked music because I was like, I do not want to play a fugue. I do not want to play a sonata. I do not want to play a waltz. I do not care about people in hoop skirts doing prim Mr. Darcy fancy pants dancing at this stuff. Like it did not resonate for me at all. I have an intellectual respect for classical music, and I do not like it. And there's a lot of things that I think go on like this where as a, I don't know, like I didn't grow up with any money, but like I grew up as like a white kid in a pretty decent community, and I don't know, so like it didn't feel super, it wasn't sort of like these lessons about this music felt like it was from a whole different world. But I mean, if you're a kid growing up and you feel like 25 generations and 3 worlds disconnected from this stuff, and it's not the sounds you want to make and it's not the music that you want to make, I think this stuff is like very important for kids to get access to that. Because like, I don't know, I guess it's like cool that we're standing on the shoulders of these giants and everything, but I don't care what Mozart did. Like I don't care what the Beatles did. I don't like that. I care what James Hetfield was doing in like 1985. Very much I cared what James Hetfield was doing in 1985. But I don't know. I think it makes the stuff more resonant and more connected, and it makes it feel more real, and it makes it more about the world that people are living in, and doesn't sort of like turn this thing into, I don't know, it removes a lot of the classism and weirdness from it.
No, absolutely.
Awesome.
Especially if you look at like, at least like where I was, when I was raised and taking music classes, like you said, it was all like, you know, Western European white dudes, and even like contemporary stuff they would teach you in music class was still a bunch of white dudes, and it was still like, you know, the same kind of system and structure of writing music that was been doing for the past, you know, when the Western European white dudes were doing classical music and stuff like that, and music notation and stuff like that. And what I like about something like this is this gives kids the idea that you don't have to rely upon these old systems and old ways to make music in order to make music. You can do a lot more tangible things than just like plucking keys or blowing a horn or something like that. Like, you know, you can be turning these knobs and stuff and learning about that way. And I think that that's an important thing for kids to understand is that, you know, music is more than just what you know, like this, you know, typical, you know, classical instruments.
And it's more than the 12-tone system.
Exactly.
And the 12-tone tuning. So I want to give credit to my public education school system. The first song that we learned how to play on guitar was Ike and Tina Turner.
Nice.
So not white. So yay. Second, though, now I need to reference our Lord and Savior 9-Inch Newman, and who was originally attracted to music because he saw an instrument with a lot of knobs on it. He's like, oh, that's cool.
Yep.
And that's what got him into music. And I think that's the most brilliant thing about introducing kids to modular synthesis, because it's weird, because it has that scientific edge and that element of synthesis exploration, which is the reason all of us are here. We've all gone down a rabbit hole chasing a sound and had it and been like 40 minutes later, somewhere completely different from where we started, having a blast the entire way. and just
Mhm.
the STEM aspect of it, and all the stuff it makes you think about and learn. It's so fascinating, and that we can get kids addicted to it. Oh, that's great, but there's also a really horrible downside of this, which is more intolerable modular synth jams that people bring right to. So it's like, ugh! And then and then you find out like, oh, well, I have to go because it's not another white modular synth jam, but it's still a modular
It's still
synth
a
jam. What do I
modular
do?
synth jam.
And you have to go. You got to support,
Right.
But all kidding aside, no, this is a great idea, and I'm glad Robin brought this to our attention.
No, this is really cool. And it's got a lot of good supporters behind it. Obviously, you got like Moga's in there. You got Vans, Make Noise, Noise Engineering, IntelliGel, 1010 Music, Bafako, DivKid, and then some not so great sponsors, Teenage Engineering. Yeah, so it's just
Maybe they're good sponsors. I don't
Maybe.
know. They may be decent
Maybe.
humans. They
might be decent humans, but they did put out this thing.
They've given
they
us
gave
reason
us
to believe
this,
that
so
they
I don't
might
know if they're
not
really
be.
decent human beings or not.
I know. We've got some evidence to the contrary.
Exactly.
But maybe who knows?
But at least they're trying to do good things sometimes.
Maybe they're trying to make up for
Yeah.
the
And
errors
it doesn't
of
matter
their-
why you do the good thing, as long as you're doing the good thing. I don't care about the merits of altruism. Just do the good things.
There you go. Did you ever read the book
No,
on
I don't care if you do
altruism?
it because-
It's called The Price of Altruism. It's a really good book.
Yeah, and I don't care if you do it for the selfish reason of it makes you feel good. Fine, do it.
yeah.
Oh, I know.
Good
As
stuff,
long
good
as somebody
stuff.
else benefits.
That's right.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, Afro Rec. Help them out. Send them some money. They'll appreciate it. They'll give you a wink and a nudge or something. Who knows? They might not.
Yep.
Oh,
So going from the low cost stuff, what was the most expensive synth ever?
the Synclavier.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad we don't have any news from them.
Oh, but we do.
Or do we?
Dun dun dun.
Bum bum bum.
They're
and is John
back.
Haynes on?
They're back, baby.
With the Synclavier Regen. Which
So for all the attention that Fairlight gets because it was 60 grand, the Synclavier, so the Fairlight may have been 60 grand, and then Synclavier said, "Hey, hold my beer," because some of these units went to $400,000-$500,000.
Yep.
But they were the first to introduce hard drive recording, making it the first DAW, spectral analysis, FM synthesis, licensed with Yamaha, and first real, big sampling or more articulated sampling than the Fairlight. And yeah, actually, it was argued that the police broke up because one member had a Fairlight and one member had a Synclavier, and they argued about which one to use.
And the correct answer
So-
was Sting.
Yeah. So yeah, the Synclavier.
I don't think that's going to happen with
Yeah.
the regen.
So I don't know that much about the regen, but I do have the Synclavier V. And I will say that as an FM synth, it's weird.
Mhm.
It's that helps give it its distinct sound and workflow. And there's a reason. There are certain people that just they're enamored with it. They're used to that workflow, and they will love it. I just haven't really adapted to it because I'm used to more DX style FM synthesis. But it definitely does things and both DX synthesis and Synclavier synthesis do things in very different
Mhm.
ways. Like the Synclavier is kind of like it's a combination of DX, FM, and then additive, where you create all these partials. And then with the modern adaptations, they add a lot more functionality because we have a ton more processing power now. And, if you can get into it, you're certainly going to make sounds that you can't make with much
Sure.
else. So now a lot of people don't want to use software and they want to get hardware. And so now there's this new Synclavier, and it's got sampling, so, well,
It's
anyway.
it's a big old DSP synth.
Yeah.
It's got whatever you need really. Because the sky's the limit when it comes to this DSP synths and stuff like that really. So you got subtractive, additive, sampling, FM, all that stuff in this rather weird looking box. That's
Ugly.
Yeah.
Ugly
It
box,
kind of
just
looks like
that.
the back of a Nissan Juke. Remember, like the window just didn't.
It's rounded on
Yeah,
one corner.
like the back window
It
of a
is-
Nissan Juke.
And the screen on it, the way that it's laid out, reminds me of a Palm
I was just
Pilot.
thinking that.
Very
Yeah.
much of a Palm Pilot with the buttons and the screen on it.
Yes,
It sounds killer.
it does. It sounds
And-
really beautiful.
I want to know, I want to know how much of that $2,500 price tag is in that weird, silly touch thing on the side that's your only means
The
of
liquid thing?
Yeah, the swiper.
editing parameters. You get 3 parameters on the screen at a time, and you pick one with a button, and then you can swipe it. It's like, imagine using your entire. It's like, it reminds me of that one
Yep.
fader port thing. I can't imagine using that with a DAW because you'd be
So-
going,
But what you
back
just
to every
explained
channel
there is just
down.
using any soft synth with a mouse.
Yeah.
You can only turn one
Yeah.
knob at a time. So they
So
did
they
that.
made a
They made a
hardware
software synth.
they need a hardware synth that you operate like you using a
Yes,
mouse,
you're using
but you're
the
not
swipe.
using
But
a mouse.
there's no knobs on this thing at all. There's no sliders on this thing at all. There's
So all those
those
things
are all
buttons.
And if you watch the demo, they're really, really, really into the way you can swipe all those buttons like you could on the
Yeah.
other original. They were done. You can swipe. I'm like,
All right. Well, I'm sure that
Why
swiper
do I
will
care?
never ever break.
Right?
No, for sure.
never.
If it's the only source of parameter adjustment, yeah, that's.
this is the first time I've looked at a hardware synth and I said, can you
Yeah.
just give me a plug-in version of that?
And it's got some stuff that I'm like, holy smokes. It's got some such like really
Yeah.
cool hyper professional features, like hardware
Like
features,
balanced
like,
outputs.
Yes, like it's got big old honking
XLR
XLR
outputs,
outputs on it.
But it
Yes.
has at the same time it's got those big old honking XLR outputs, and yet it uses a 1/8" MIDI adapter.
Yes. And then it's got like 5 USB plugs on the back of it or something. It's so
Those are for controllers or the host ports. You can apparently add
Yeah.
MIDI.
But
Or
here's
to
the
it,
thing
the,
though. Here's the thing
class
though.
compliant device.
I was watching Loop Op with
I
it
know where you're
talking about
going.
this thing. You can't use all of them at the same time. You can use the accessories or you can use host mode, but you can't use them both. So if you plug in like a MIDI, like a MIDI device, like a MIDI interface into the accessories, you want to plug that into your computer? No, you can't.
It seems to me, and I wanted to like this thing. I really like the synth engine that's in there. I really, really do. That's like catnip to me. Additive and FM and all these things, just like esoteric synthesis parameters, just make my day. But everything about how they packaged it, it's as if back in 1984 the timeline split. And since we're developed in a different way in another universe, and somehow the synclavier that survived, that eventually started making budget instruments, accidentally dropped a design into our timeline because it doesn't look like a great device.
Yeah,
it looks terrible.
Yeah, like I feel like
it doesn't look like it would be fun to use in any way.
Yeah, like they put all the money into like specs and then the engine. And then they chipped out on like the user interface and the design because it looks like it's designed by the people behind SCO Unix.
Yeah, the UX is god awful.
I mean, somebody tried to fix it by putting pinstriping on it, but still, it's just a terrible interface for all these parameters.
It's very strange, and
it looks like a conference room phone.
And
oh my God, it is. That's exactly what it is.
And if you listen on the like on the Synclavier site for it, if you go into the demos that they have from SoundCloud, I mean, God, it sounds incredible. And the people who have made the demo video or the demo songs on it have done, I think, a really good job of producing. Number one, like pretty good songs, like well composed songs, but also just really showing off the sound of it. Like it sounds very not spatial in the like panning left and right. It just like everything sounds very full, but also like there's a lot of air around it. I don't know. It's a very cool sounding instrument, and it has this sort of real sound, even when it's like very inorganic. I don't know. It's very cool, but then I was listening to it, and I was looking at the device a while ago, and I was thinking, wow, they must have really like put in some blood, sweat, and tears to make these songs with this thing, because it looks like an absolute bastard.
I know, right?
You know,
or it could be they pulled up.
You know what device it reminds me of? The Yamaha TQ5. And if you don't know what that is, go look it up. Because the Yamaha TQ5 was the ugliest FM synthesizer ever made.
The TQ5.
It TQ5.
Doesn't have a line in Star Wars?
I saw one in a store once, and I thought I was like, what the hell is this? And it's like a 4-op FM synthesizer.
Oh yeah, that thing
like
is
a tabletop.
fucking.
Oh yeah, that one's legendary.
Yeah, I mean that looks like it. First of all,
my first band had one of those.
I first thought it was.
Screen's crooked.
I thought this was just like a picture, like a photograph of one, because it's all crooked and stuff. Like it was like a edgy '80s advertisement, but that's the unit, huh?
The people who designed it were like,
I love cocaine,
machines, and I want a synthesizer that looks like an answering machine.
It does have a big like wide spot on the front of it where you could blow some lines of code.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's there for. Wow, that thing is.
It does legitimately look like an old school answering
does.
machine. Like the top left of it looks like it's a speaker,
And like the lower right looks like that could be a dial pad.
The dial pad.
Yep. Like this looks like something that like you wanted when you were a teenager, and they sold it at like what was the chain of service merchandise or best products or something like that, you know.
Looks like
or Venture.
Yeah.
You'd get it at Venture.
Looks like a pager.
Oh, that's hideous. And so is this thing is pretty hideous too. The Synclavier.
You know what the TQ5 had?
Hmm?
Do you know what the TQ5 had?
What's that?
MIDI in, out, and through on 5-pin in.
But you know what it didn't have? XLR outputs.
No. It didn't.
It did not.
But to be absolutely honest, how many times have you been like, this synthesizer would be awesome?
Yeah,
but it doesn't have
I'll give you a
XLR
number.
Output.
I will tell you when I have cared about stuff like that, and it has always been for live play. The thing that I care about with XLR balance is just if you're playing at a show, especially if it's some sort of like small show where you have like 12 bands crammed together and everybody's got their badly shielded electric equipment and everybody's got their power strips plugged into other power strips that are plugged into power strips strung across an alley plugged into a rat.
So you play in New York City.
Just play it in a rat. Then you get the you get so much interference on it. Like that's when it matters, and that's how you know that this is for like.
That's why you get some D.
Stuff
That's
like
why you
that
get a
where
DI.
Well, even without a DI, just the right cables. You know, like
I mean,
this DJ controller has 1/4-inch balanced outs, so I have XLR. I have 1/4-inch to XLR cables, so it's still low. It's still low impedance, but I don't have to have XLR jacks on my controller. And I use the balanced outputs whenever I can.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm with you on it. It just I guess it's more of like a signal that that's who they were thinking about to me.
It absolutely is.
but you know, if you're playing with like 100 other bands, then no one really gives a shit about what you sound like.
No, they just want you to finish.
Yes, they do.
Stop crying, Jeff.
Yes,
Come on,
thank
Okay,
you.
you're special just like everybody else.
Hurry up. We can't hear a modular synth jam.
Exactly.
Oh,
I mean, my modular synth has balanced outputs on it.
Before the improv comedy group.
These are a few of your favorite things.
well, you know what does have a pretty decent UI on it is the new Spitfire audio.
Are you talking about Gaelic voices?
I am, which is also free. Don't ever say that Tangents didn't give you anything, because we're giving you for free tonight.
You're welcome.
For free tonight. Gaelic Voices by Spitfire Audio. Our
Six
gift
traditional
to
Gaelic singers got together inside the ruins of a 1960s seminary just to record this shit for you for free, Tangents listeners. So you better fucking appreciate it. I'm not going
Yeah.
to tell you again.
That's right. It sounds super good.
It does. It really does. How'd that sound?
I will never use it. I did download it.
Yeah,
I will never use it.
I'm grabbing it
'cause
right
I
now.
never make this music.
Yeah,
but it's free. Sounds awesome.
You know, you can always run it through like something stupid and make it even more fun.
Yeah, I might actually like throw it into my S5000 and sample it or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or, dump it into your...
Or in the SP4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Boink.
I'll sample it
There
into
you
my
go.
EPS.
I'll sample it into my S612.
You know, take all that pristine audio and get
Phenomenauticus says he's super impressed with Gaelic voices, less impressed with garlic voices. SynthLab is going to load that into the Morphogene. Perfect for your modular synth jam.
Yeah, I thought the garlic voices sounded a bit bulbous.
And good night, everybody.
I just wanted to say Gaelic.
Yeah.
I know you did. All right, yeah. So go get that. Go get the Gaelic voices now and rock on to it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Other plugin news: our friends at GeForce have recently released version 3 of the ARP Odyssey plugin called the Oddity 3. GeForce software make phenomenal plugins that are not too insanely expensive. Just a little bit insanely expensive. The Oddity 3 is going right now for 50 quid if you are in the UK, which with the current exchange rate, I think is probably like around $45. We'll say that. So this has been one of their flagships, for want of a better term, just because it's as far as their soft synths that GeForce makes, and they make really good recreations. And so this is the most up-to-date version of it. They give polyphonic playability. They gave it some more, fun stuff in there. And programmable macros, polyphonic aftertouch. They give it a vintage knob to make it sound, pretend it sounds real. New effects for distortion, reverb, all that stuff.
Yeah, Oddity's been around for a long
2002.
time, and it's been well respected, as is GeForce
Mhm.
Media. They definitely make really high quality stuff, and yeah, it's not cheap, it's not overly expensive, it's moderately priced, but nobody's going to say you're not getting an equal return
Agreed.
of value on it, because it's always well done. It does very well in shootouts for authenticity, and again, authenticity isn't what matters. It's just that you get quality results with it, and you do. And some of these features are really nice to have, like the the oscillator slop functionality that they just put in. I mean, this code is old, and it's great that they haven't abandoned it and that they've updated it. And they probably had to start just because, M1 processors, and there's more of a shift towards VST3, and then there was that other new technology that we were talking about. I can't remember the name of right now. So it's like, all right, well, while we're doing these updates, let's add some of these other things that we've implemented, like, an oscillator slop object. So hooray.
Yeah. Everybody wins. Go pick it up. You can download a free demo of it to make sure that it is your style and that it works on your machine. They're pretty their specs aren't really terrible. The Macs will do anything that runs Mac OS 10.13 or higher, Intel or Silicon. Windows is 2 gigahertz CPU with 2 gigs of RAM.
It's not bad.
Yeah, you can run on Windows 7. It does not support Vista. Sorry, Christoph. I know that was your favorite Windows OS.
Yeah, it's the worst one after MX.
What was the one? Millennium Edition was good too.
That's
Millennium Edition wasn't an operating system.
so ME and then Vista.
Yeah, that was.
ME wasn't an operating system. It was a disaster. Like a hurricane or a flood. It was not.
It was
an
that
operating
stepping
system.
stone, just kind of like what Vista was between XP and Windows 7.
Yeah, and basically what brought down Vista was it had so much spying on you that all the spying and logging just grounded
Yep,
to a halt.
I love the fact that its own spyware made it useless.
Which is also what killed the HP
Mhm.
tablet. That it was doing so much logging that it was unusable, and they should have just gone with Android instead. And so they eventually blew out the whole inventory of them out of spite.
Which made you buy them because it was spite.
Best Buy was going to charge them for having them. Yeah, and so when I could buy a tablet for $150,
There you
I
go.
did.
And have it spy on you.
Yeah, but the Windows Vista kind of brought down Steve Ballmer at Microsoft because he just so dropped
He
the ball.
was
with
so sweaty.
it. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm sure he's crying himself to sleep on his
I know,
mountain of
right?
money.
Sweaty Steve.
Sweaty Steve. So did you get the message?
I don't know.
The
What was
Our
the
message is that our friends at Cherry Audio are
Yeah,
coming out with a new synth.
yeah, ice.
And that's exciting. We usually don't do like this kind of thing. We usually wait till the product to come out. But this is our friends at Cherry Audio. They're the ones that have.
We know they're going to deliver.
We're going to deliver, and
Yeah,
they're going
but
to
the real
any day now.
news-
They're going to give us free shit.
Yeah, but the real news is that they put out a cool video teasing their
Yes,
next
they
synth.
put out a very beautiful Blade Runner-y video.
Yeah.
Their latest flagship synthesizer. They've got like a list of flagship synthesizers now. What do you call like a gaggle of flagships? Is that like is that a
Flaggle?
fleet? Is it a murder? Is it a orgy? Is it, I don't know.
It's a
Bankruptcy of
bankruptcy of
synthesizers.
Cruise ships just keep putting out
That's
their
my-
new majestic master ship. That's the biggest one
Yep.
they've ever built. And for Cherry Audio, that's exactly what
Yeah.
they're doing here. Although I don't know if it's actually going to be their best synth, because I would argue that the CS80 is not the greatest
I
synthesizer. ever.
agree completely.
100%.
And I won't
It's
even
not.
say it's the greatest analog synthesizer. It's the greatest Yamaha synthesizer up to
Mhm.
that point.
It's also the greatest myth of a great synthesizer.
It absolutely is, because it's
100%.
there's two things that we have to debunk. One, it's not the synthesizer, it's
Yes.
Vangelis. That's what you love, and buying that synth is going to make you Vangelis. And even that, if Blade Runner wasn't a great movie, nobody would remember that
Yep.
soundtrack.
And the other thing that people also like to forget is they try to lionize Vangelis. Like Vangelis did a lot of very good music. I'm not trying to say like Vangelis was not a good composer. And also Vangelis was not like on all the time either. It wasn't like he just like poured amazing music out of him every time that
He
No,
put
he
out
didn't.
a lot of really schlocky stuff.
It's very bad.
And I'm talking. I'm a huge Jean-Michel Jarre fan, and I'm saying that was schlocky.
yeah,
Yep.
it is. Some of it was like just really.
It's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff that when it
Not-
comes on your Spotify, you kind of turn it down and do this in the car.
Uh-huh.
Just make sure that no one heard that.
Yeah.
It's like Duran Duran's great, but I don't want to hear Electric Barbarella
Right.
again.
Yeah.
Not ever. And so yeah, man, the thing is, yeah, so he had a range, and when he was off, he was off. He wasn't
Right.
consistent. But when he was on, well, we're talking about it 30
Right.
years later.
yeah, exactly.
Because oh my god, he nailed it. I mean, he broke records.
Mm-hmm.
His Chariots of Fire soundtrack made more money than
Yeah.
the movie did.
Absolutely.
It's one of the
I,
best known pieces of music.
well, I remember being like a very young boy, and they had advertisements for the Chariots of Fire soundtrack on LP and cassette about every 10 or 15 minutes, it seemed like, on certain channels, especially after the cartoons
It
were
was.
over. They just would
Also,
keep
it
running
got
these
on
commercials.
the
I know that
compilations.
music because of those commercials.
And on the, they would advertise those compilations it was on, and they would play that
Yeah.
section
Yeah.
always. Yeah. So it was just huge.
It was that and Zamfir, the pan flute.
Yep.
They would just play. Those were the two every
But
morning.
that's
So I mean, here's the thing: is
Every
the other
day.
thing to think about is that fucking song, that Chariots of Fire song, was actually #1 on the Billboard hits for a week, which does not happen for that kind of music at all.
no. So that's how big it is. So he wasn't consistent, but and he wasn't like that. He didn't have that kind of training where he was all articulated. He just went by instincts. But when his instincts were on, again, we all love that Blade Runner
Yep.
soundtrack, and that's why we love the CS80. And everybody wants to buy a CS80 and think, I'm going to stand behind it and I'm going to do it. It's like, no, you're not.
Or you're gonna
And
just
enough,
literally play the
Arturia
one song.
emulation of the CS80 doesn't even have that Blade Runner sound in it, and it should be preset number 1. That's why you love the
Right.
thing. Just play it. It's like no one's ever going to go past that
Yeah.
preset. And honestly, the Alp 6, is it the Alp 6 or the Wave State that has like a perfect emulation of that?
I think it's a Wave State.
By the
It's
way,
something
they-
Jeff has because he made a track with it that I play.
Oh, it's the Hydrosynth.
Oh yeah, the Hydrosynth has it. Oh yeah, yeah.
It's number 4.
Yes, number 4. It's
that's patch number
it's
4.
like Blade Runner. Yeah, and or Blade Vanja. It's funny because if you're playing with the synthesizer and there is a preset that either says Vangelis or Blade Runner, you're gonna stop and you're gonna play it. I don't care who you are, and you're gonna sit there and you're gonna fucking play the Blade Runner theme on it, or you're gonna figure out the Blade Runner theme just so you can play it on
Much
there.
as you remember of it.
And if
or you're going to accidentally play the Blade
Exactly.
Runner.
It's like
you have
5
no choice.
notes.
It'll just happen.
And if a synth in the year of our Lord 2022 does not come with a patch that's called Blade Runner or Blade Runner Blues or some sort of
Or
variation,
Rocket's theme.
yeah, like if it doesn't have one of those, why are you buying that synthesizer? Like, it's not a good synthesizer. Don't buy it. Every synthesizer should be able to do that. If it can't do that this year, then don't buy that synthesizer. It's underpowered.
That just reminds me on the Novation Peak. I think it's somewhere in Bank B or Bank C. It will just play the Laura Palmer's theme when you hold down a note. It'll just play that. Yeah,
That's
and I'm
awesome.
like, that's such a fun little Easter
Yes.
egg. Yeah, I'm like, that's wonderful.
Oh, I want to
Yeah.
try that.
And in like, I don't know, in 20 years, if synthesizers still exist and people haven't just like merged with the computer,
Or just died.
20 years, they might have all merged with
Yeah,
the ground.
that sounds.
we
sounds
could
better.
just be extinct. That's also
That's a far more
possible.
realistic prospect.
But if that hasn't happened and synthesizers still exist, and synthesizers like from that time then don't come with I don't know, like the Skrillex wobble wobble or whatever the like iconic sound of not that one. It's the Stranger Things theme. Like if it doesn't play
Right.
the Stranger Things theme, like don't buy that synthesizer then. That's a bad synthesizer.
Right. Even though that was like a from a 1970s era synthesizer. But yeah, no, I get you.
But it's
It
popular
is.
now.
The kids like it. My yoga class, my teacher used to play the Stranger Things soundtrack for yoga. And I'm like, oh, you should hear some of the other stuff that Survive put out. And they're like, who? And I like sent them a
There
link
you
and they're
go.
like, what the fuck are you listening to?
Yeah. But it's also to point out that the Blade Runner soundtrack wasn't entirely the
Nope.
CS80. Yeah, the Roland VP 330 is, or is it 340? It does not get the credit it
Mhm.
deserves for its workhorseness on that
Yeah.
soundtrack. And a lot of that soundtrack is just that really long reverb that
Mhm.
he got. So, anyway, it's the other thing that is important about what made the CS80 so great is that it's the control surface, which won't be in the
No.
software. Like when you try to play that Blade Runner theme, that last note, you need to ribbon control that
Yep.
down, and otherwise you can't play it. And so good luck
But you
with that.
can do that with the Hydrosynth. the full size keyboard because it's got the ribbon control on the top there. You can also do a damn good job with it with the Linstrument too, because it's got the MPE, and you can slide that down there while you're holding another note, steady. So yeah.
And also, I just want to point one other flaw with the CS80 is that it doesn't have a self-resonating filter, so you'll never make a high Q sound.
And you'll never be able to pick it up on your own.
So it's a weird synth, and that's something that's exciting about it. It's it comes before the Prophet 5 model kind of took over for subtractive synthesis, so it takes a minute to figure out what's going on with this. Does this go up or down? How do I make this sound? So it's a little bit puzzling, just like the Udo Super 6 is puzzling, and you're really used to the Prophet 5 Jupiter 8 model of subtractive synthesis.
Yeah. And one interesting thing about it, though, that I find with the CS80, I don't want to own one, but I would like to take one apart because it's just total brute force how to make a polyphonic synthesizer, electronics in there. I don't know how many techs have just lost their minds trying to work on one of those, but I can't. They're just wires and wires and wires, and I think their guts look beautiful.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a guy I follow on Instagram whose handle is Hawkins, and then Hawkins spelled backwards. And he does a lot of synth teardown repair stuff, and he's done some extremely complex stuff. He did a CS80, and then I can't remember the other, and I won't go digging through his post right now to find it, but he did another one that was I believe technically the first synthesizer ever made, and there's 5 of them around. He also repaired, I can't remember what it was, but he
the RCA
might have been, but he also repairs vintage Porsches and stuff like that's his work is repairing old weird shit, and he posts a lot of teardown stuff. So, and also jams. He's a very talented musician too. So if you ever want to go down that rabbit hole, he's posted some stuff like that. He also has an Instagram called Hawkins Garage if you want to watch him tear apart cars.
So I've watched videos of people doing repairs on the CS80, and I will say there's a reason why the CS80s are so expensive, and it's not because of how great they are. It's just that there's so much in it to engineer. There was no way to make this thing. There's so
9
many
trees
wires.
in one of
They
them.
hadn't thought of clever solutions for a lot of things, and there's more wiring in it than you'd find in a Cray supercomputer.
And more wood than a forest.
Yeah. And what makes them so incredibly difficult to repair is that it was proprietary chips that haven't been manufactured in decades.
Yeah. Phenomenautica says an Alesis QS 8.1 landed in my lap. I was really surprised by it, to be honest. Should I keep it? Is it a keeper?
It depends on what you could resell it for. The downside of the QS8 is it doesn't have resonant filters. So if you need resonant filters, it's not the synth for you. But it has really good presets. It has a good ROM. I know bands that have done really great work with Alesis QS synths. Signed bands, it would be NCC and Dismantled. Both use that. My side 3.
My recommendation would be with something like the QS8. Get yourself a copy of Sample Robot. Strip it all out, get all the sounds that you like, converted to samples, and then you can use them in your cheapest possible available computer software. And because there you'll have resonant filters and other things you can do. Load it into Kontakt, make yourself a library. Sample Robot is very worth the money. It's clunky, but it's once you figure it out, you can really do. It can make your life.
You can even do
easier.
something like Sample Robot with just an MPC-1 too. You can have it do a chromatic sampling mode as well. So if you don't,
20 years ago, I had something that would auto sample for you, and I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
So that's something. I don't know. It depends what the value. I mean, if you got it for free, I would probably keep it. It depends on whether you have the space for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a terrible controller.
It's a big keyboard though, and it's a full size
It
88
is.
key. So
Yeah, well, it depends on whether you
Mhm.
need the again, if you need the space, if you like that kind of controller. So, but otherwise, yeah, if if it's
Yeah.
just for the engine,
And-
yeah, you might want to Rompler it. You might want to sample it.
And expect, just because it is an Alessis QS8 and it's old, expect one day to go to turn it on and it's dead. Because that's all. It's amazing that this QS8 still is actually working at this point. They had a lot of, Alessis has had a lot of longevity problems.
Yeah. So I have an Alesis QSR, which is the same engine, but it has a little bit of sampling built into it as well.
I hope we answered your question there. Look at us go. All right. There's a story about a Eurorack device. We generally don't dive into Eurorack. But we'll talk about it just because we love Christoph. And it was
And
weird
it's
that
also an offshoot.
it's
of
also
a-
weird
it's an-
that Christoph actually posted something that had to do with Eurorack.
Well, it's just the Eurorack size.
I know, I'm messing with you. So this is the Black Corporation Isanen, the Jupiter 8 voice replica.
I have to wonder if the way that's supposed to be pronounced is Ice 9.
Well, they're Japanese, so it's usually Isanen.
Okay.
But yeah, Ice 9 sounds good too. We'll go with that.
Because I think I've seen it spelled with a break between the E and the N.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see now. Yeah, the Ice dash Nen.
So I thought it was like a Vonnegut
Ice Nen.
reference, but
Yeah,
maybe not.
Ice 9's it's good. Or also a William Gibson reference.
Yeah.
The Isanen. So this is a replica of the Jupiter 8 in Eurorack form.
Yep.
Actually, I played
in
with
the
it.
same-
They had this at didn't they have this up at NobCon? Yeah, I
They
was
had this
messing
at
with it a little bit.
NobCon. I played with it. It sounded nice. That's about all
Yeah,
I felt
it
for
sounded nice.
Sounded nice.
It's kind of like the Deckard's Dream thing from them, where like it sounds really good, but it's
Yeah.
it's like it is and isn't enough of the first or the original thing.
Right.
It's also not enough of the price, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although it's only
The
it's not
price
8
kinda-
voices though, right? It's only
Uh,
a single voice, right?
This one is
I'd-
so the I'm sorry. Yeah, the Ice9 voice is just a single voice of this.
And that's why it's like, oh, it's only $100, but still, it's a lot for a mono.
Yeah.
But Black Corporation doesn't make anything cheap.
No, it does not. And this thing's huge
Yeah.
too. This thing is like not a small Eurorack. This thing is pretty big.
Oh, I
It's going to take up
somehow
a role in your
Yeah.
I somehow was thinking of it as like the whole Ice and Ice 9 thing, which is $1,500,
hmm
and that one is 8 voice.
Yeah, that is. But
that's only $1,500. Get that one instead.
the
yeah,
Eurorack.
that one's
The Eurorack is just like a single voice. It's just kind of like what they did. They did the Eurorack version of the Deckard's Dream and made it like a single voice as well.
yeah, it's $700 for the voice,
Right.
but then the actual like the Deckard's Dream is like I don't remember how much. I think it's $1,500 too. They've got I think that I don't know their Xerxes thing I think is actually the more compelling of their synths.
Yeah. Yeah, there's their
Which is like their own design.
yeah.
I
So
like
the
the
Kajimi is
Kajimi.
probably my favorite of theirs.
The Kajimi is cool too.
I considered trying to get a kit. I have a friend that offered to build it for me. There'd be a financial transaction there, but it would
Yeah.
be cheaper than buying one pre-built. But still, that's a lot of money to lay into
Yeah.
one 8-voice
Mhm.
synth.
Oh yeah. I just like the Kajimi because they use it as a name for a planet in Star Wars too.
Because J.J. Abrams is a nerd twice.
Yes, because he is because he has a
Not just
Kajimi,
once. Yeah, not just once, but twice.
and that's where Enrique
cool.
Martinez has music in a Star Wars movie because of that.
It's funny.
So yeah, that's the Black Corporation Ice9 voice.
We've got another gift.
We
for
do.
tonight.
You
We're
fucking
feeling
better.
very
You better
generous
fucking
tonight.
appreciate us, audience. I swear to God. Otherwise, we're not going to do this for you anymore. So we had a long conversation, and by that I mean we didn't at all. Had a with our friends over at Arturia, and they're willing to give you the Mellow-Fi Effect plugin for free. You're welcome.
Yep, but there is a trick to it.
Of course.
You can't go to Arturia to get it.
No.
Instead, you've got to go to Audio Plugin Deals to get it.
Yeah.
And then you'll sign up, and then it'll go to your Arturia account. So Arturia gave this plugin away last Christmas. So if you already got it then, you already have it. But if you missed it and you now you don't want to pay, like I think it's $80 for it, here's your chance to get it again. But you've only got like another week or so to get it.
So get on it, people. You're welcome.
So this
You just got to let Plugin Deals install that crypto miner into your browser.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that you get it for free.
And then you can get some cool NFTs.
Exactly right.
Did you guys see like what is it? There's that company that comes out like that the room tuning software. Was it Spectrosonic? No, that's not Spectrosonic. Oh, what the hell are they called? I didn't even put it in the news story because I just rolled my eyes. It came out with Sound ID. That company. They just released some NFTs.
SonarWorks.
Yeah, SonarWorks. Yeah, SonarWorks just released some fucking NFTs. Now you can get these NFTs of a rock and roll studio of your dreams.
Which is crazy.
Like, why don't you guys work on your fucking software instead?
NFTs completely flopped shit the bed and died 6 weeks ago. Like completely. Yeah. They were cool for 5 minutes, and then I heard that absolute dingus Jake Paul had bought some NFT for like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh my god!
There's a whole bunch of money, and now the headline that I saw was that it was worth like $35. Which is the best and funniest thing that I've seen in the longest time. Like, idiot man makes idiot decision,
loses money.
I mean, good old,
unsurprisingly,
loses absolutely like catastrophic sum of money, like the worst, but not to zero. It wasn't like the house burned down and it was worth nothing.
Right.
It's way better that it's worth $35 than $0 because that's much funnier. That it still retains like someone somewhere is willing to pay like, I don't know, enough to go to Outback. For this thing,
the same price of a bloomin' onion, you can get an NFT.
That's what it's worth now. It was worth a house. Now it's a bloomin' onion.
Yep.
Here, you throw this away.
Which might actually be a way to move some of these NFTs.
Yep.
Get a free bloomin' onion with your NFT purchase. I like this idea.
A little gift card. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just gift cards. Weird. It's like we've invented gift cards.
But yeah. So go and get that. Go and get that free Mellow-Fi plugin. It's a nice little tape plugin kind of sounding thing. Make your audio immediately sound worse than it already does. You're welcome. We love you.
Worse in a better way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what I mean. Of course.
Like a lot of multi effects and things will do.
Like a rhythmic multi effect plugin.
Might be.
The Bendo Box. Is that what you're talking about from our friends at Psychic Modulation?
I am indeed.
Indeed, a new rhythmic multi-effect plugin that gives you BPM sync, chopping and gating, gated feedback, and more. If you do not have a copy of Reason and don't use the Gator plugin, which is an amazeballs kind of little device that kind of does something similar to this.
These gating plugins are really
They are so much fun to play with. They're these crazy rhythmic, bizarro devices. This thing's going for $60 VST AU, $60 for a gate effect processor. Go for it. How can I?
Well, it's not just that. But yeah, I had doubts about sharing this article, and then I watched the video, and it sounds really nice. It's like, because I think whenever I see something like this, like it's a combination of these four things. I could do this in Reactor. I don't need a plugin to do this for me. But the way it's implemented, it's very succinctly implemented. It sounds really good together. And plus you can do these combinations and then make presets and roll through it. But it's got a really nice sound to it.
And there's a fader that says freak out, and that makes me happy.
Yep. For me, once it sounds like something like, I could see that Skinny Puppy would have used this back in the day. You sold me. And this had that kind of sound to it. it's interesting, and I can totally see this like getting sounds out of you that you never would have thought
Mhm.
of, but you experiment with it and you get it, and you're like, oh god damn, that was cool, and you never would have thought of
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
So I thought this was an interesting little plugin. I thought it would share it with everybody.
Yeah.
And it came out today.
Yeah, look at that.
That's cool.
We're the news show. We're the 1st ones to cover it.
Not
You
even
saw it
not
here.
even Bo Beats or whoever else.
Bad Gear
Well, they usually take a couple years.
or Lollapop.
Yeah, or Loopop.
Yeah.
None of those people have breaking news, folks.
Tangents first.
Tangents first. Sign up for our Patreon. No,
is.
we don't have a
Sons of
Patreon.
Bitches. Yeah. My OnlyFans.
Yeah, sign up for Christoph's OnlyFans and watch him make bread for you.
Another one that I'm going to walk on because it's related
Yeah.
to this similarly, that is, it was announced, I guess, maybe yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It's a new Boss pedal that is, I think would be really good for stereo sense. I'm pretty jazzed about this one. It's called the SL2. I just dropped a link into it. If
Yeah.
you haven't checked this one out yet, haven't seen it, give it a spin. So it's a slicer pedal, which reminded me of what you're saying there, Christoph. And I think Skinny Puppy might have used it. Like, it sounds like the thing that Skinny Puppy might have used.
Slicers do
like,
really interesting things.
Mhm.
There's actually, I can actually think of a few songs. I can't, or places where I think they might have used it. Now that you say that,
yeah. Some of that
Well,
rhythmic gating
holding
stuff just
position.
sounds like, it feels like stuff that they would have done with
Yeah.
some texturing on things. But I don't know. It's really cool. And so it's basically the Boss Slicer, which is like not a new thing, but they made it in a guitar pedal form. And Boss pedals don't suck to use with synths because they have a giant flat wide thing that you can smack with your hand and it doesn't hurt your delicate baby flesh. But it's stereo in and out. It's cool. It's got a MIDI thing on it. And Jorb Loves Gear posted some stuff about it if you want to hear it on some synths.
Nice.
Sounds good. Pretty
Yeah.
color green. Get one.
And finally tonight, Cable Guys. Our friends at Cable Guys released the Shaper Box 3 Rhythmic Multi-Effects plugin. It is Multi-Effects Rhythm Plugin Central today here at Tangents.
Woo!
Yeah.
So much of this stuff. Apparently this is the thing nowadays. This is what the kids are
Yeah.
into.
So this is a very fancy plugin. If you like Serum or Vital and its synthesis method and its effects method, which is largely modular, I would say, this is from that kind of domain. And there's a genre called industrial bass created by an artist called Morris Black. He loves Shaper Box, and this is what he uses to get his pulsing effects. For gating, when you got to, what's the name? I'm blanking right now, but when you have the kick come down and the synth comes back up to get those swells,
Side
to
chain.
get those
Side
side
chaining.
chaining pump
Mhm.
effect.
Yeah, pumping.
That's the thing I was thinking of. If you're trying to get that side chain pump effect, this is what he uses. So so it's great at that. It does a lot. It's a lot of great effects, and they've updated to version 3. But more importantly, they've made it cheap for a little bit. Normally this plugin's over $300, and right now it's $90.
That's a good deal for this.
So that is a good deal.
It does a
And if you're-
lot. It's a pretty fully featured crazy little effects system.
Yep. So for the side chaining, it's got audio triggering, an external side chain input, a view, a liquid shaper. So it's it's got different types of distortion. It's just fancy.
It is.
So just follow the link, check it out, because we're getting tired. Obviously, need to go to bed. I'm getting all tongue
Because
tied.
we're old
But-
and
yeah,
we're
but-
tired.
But this is a bargain.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for, if
This
you
is a good
are
deal.
not DAWless and you're looking for, a fancy multi-effects plugin, this is a good value, and it's definitely worth checking out.
There we go. That's all the news that's fit into a tanning bed with us tangents. I'm gonna play that one into the ground. I'm just
You should.
It's just gonna be
So
my
tricky.
thing from now on. It's just like this will be like how we award things. We'll have like the tan award or something like that, and we just send them like a
Perfect.
piece of tanned leather or tan pleather, even better. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, and I'm
I don't know if
thinking
it's-
animal to mathematical function.
Yes.
I don't know if it's obvious from the camera and the angles down here. I am nearly blue. I am the opposite of tan. Christoph has seen me in person many times. I am possibly the palest human being who has ever been, who is not actually like suffering from sort of like a melanin deficiency.
Yeah, you, me, Jim Gaffigan, and Conan O'Brien could combine into Pale Force Super
You
Squad.
might
Yeah,
you turn into like Edgar Winters.
I'm like damn near reflective.
Yeah. I used to be the same way, extremely pale, but now as I'm getting older, I'm slowly turning pink, which is kind of worrisome.
I'm just turning into paper as I get older. I'm a pale motherfucker as well, so I'm right there with you. I'm just lit well. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Like I remember when my son was born, he was this little red screaming meatloaf, and I think as I'm getting older, I'm reverting back to that. I'm just going to be a very much larger, kind of screaming meatloaf.
You'll do anything for love, but you won't do that.
Not that.
Not that.
Oh yeah, Womber's a pale motherfucker too.
We have to have a limit.
As one of the few people in the world who has met Womber in real life, I can attest that Heems is a pale motherfucker.
Yeah, it's like you grow the beard so that the white hair makes you look like you have color in comparison.
Yeah, that's exactly why I have a beard, is just so people can know.
Yeah, it keeps your face looking like a slightly
Exactly.
pink marshmallow on your head.
He glows in the dark so he can bring us peace and love.
We are Jesus. All right, who we gonna go and annoy by sending people over to? Who's on?
By the way, that's a Mr. Burns Simpsons reference.
Excellent. Sid Hersey is on. DJ Dowie is on. Octonode is on. And of course, there's always the owls. So who we gonna raid over to? All right.
I say Sid Harris.
Sid Hersey? All right, we'll raid over to Sid Hersey. He's always entertaining. Who knows what he's building right now? So let us go to Sid Hersey. Make sure I'm spelling that right. Close enough.
Yes, and he could be building something. He could be playing some music. He could be doing both of those things at the same
He
time.
could
You
be
never really
just
know.
randomly yelling at you, because he does that sometimes as well. All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us today. Dream Cadaver, thank you for reminding me what Sid Hersey looks like by putting that beautiful image up there. Yeah, the channel is intended for mature audiences, so if you are a child, make sure to watch it, because he will yell fuck at you.
Just be mature while you're there.
Yes, or at least pretend to be. Anyway, this has been Tangents, episode 42. 42. We'll see you all in a few weeks. I'm going to bed. Good night, everybody.